Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. Our recitation is the 7th composition of Bhagat Kabir Ji within Rag Asa, Bani Bhaktan Ki. And the recitation, line by line. Asa Batua एक बहत्तर आधारी एको जिसह द्वारा नवे खंड की पृथ्वी मांगै सो जोगी जग सारा. So this is addressed to the yogis who had their own philosophy and their own method and their own aims. And they were essentially a wandering people from place to place because they were renunciates. And here is Kabir addressing them. He picks on them and he comments on their practices and offers his perspective of the way of the Guru. So he says, Batua ek behtar adhari. Batua is a pouch, a purse. And these yogis carried a pouch with them for essentials. It could be a scripture, it could be a rosary, whatever they needed, their essentials, they carried in a pouch. Batua. Batua ek. So Kabir is saying instead of carrying a physical pouch around with you, dragging it with you, if you were to make knowledge of the self, ek, as being the only thing you carry within the pouch of the body. So Batua ek Bahatar Adhari. Bahatar is 72. That is supported by the 72. And he's referring here to the 72 channels that the yogis actually use as a framework to define the subtle body, the energy body. They believe it rests on the life force that runs through 72,000 channels called nadis, of which 3 are primary, and we'll talk about those in a moment. But Kabir is suggesting to the yogi that the batua, the purse that you carry, is the pouch, is really the body. Make the body the pouch, and that the only essential you carry in it is ek, knowledge of the self. Eko jiseh dwara. And the self should be the only doorway, because the yogis believe that there is a dasam dwar within, through which, by penetrating which, self-realization, or at least their version of self-realization, is achieved. So Kabir says, look, only that yogi whose purse contains nothing more than knowledge of the self and who has made the body as the only doorway to the self. In other words, he's not wandering around. For him, the doorway to the self, the only doorway to the self, eko jiseh dwara, is the body. That yogi, Kabir says, has truly grasped the essence of creation. So jogi jagsara. To that yogi belongs the world. Name khand ki prithvi mange. So there is this idea of 72,000 channels that crisscross each other and distribute the vital force. And there are 3 called the Ida, Pingala, and Shushmana that are primary. The Shushmana being the central channel that runs along the spinal column. Of course, this is not physical, but this is conceptual to the world of the yogi. And it is this central channel that connects the chakras, as they are called, the 7 chakras, energy centers, starting from the base, the Mooladhara, which is at where the tailbone kind of meets the anus, and the crown chakra, which is the top of the head. And so along the spine run these energy centers, Kundalini, which has to be awakened. So the yogi is interested in awakening that serpent power, so to speak. But Kabir is giving him a different perspective. Kabir is saying that if you make knowledge of the self and the body the only doorway, then you have indeed discovered the 9 treasures. Aisa jogi naunid pave. Kaisa jogi? What kind of a yogi? Talaka Brahmala lagan chadave, one who transforms the ego mind. The earthbound creature now rises to the sky. In other words, from an egoic vision, constricted vision, you achieve universal vision. That is what Kabir is talking about. And then in the second verse after the Rahau, Kabir talks about the essential dress that a yogi wears, a patched garment, kinta, or a patched. And so Kabir says, look, why don't you make your patched garment knowledge and meditation? Kinta gyan dhyan kar. Patch it together with the needle of Shabad, Sui Sabad, and weave it together with the thread of realization, Tagga Mathakalla. And then make the 5 elements your deerskin, because the yogis practice their sadhana or their spiritual penance on a deerskin. Panch Tattva ki karamrigani. No need to especially lay out deerskin and walk the Guru's path. Gur ke marg chale. So Kabir is explaining the way of the Guru to the yogi. And is in fact suggesting to the yogi that the inculcation of inner virtue is really the bottom line. He goes on to say, have the fire of foresight. Drishti ki agan jalave. Why is he talking about fire? Because the yogis would collect around a fire at night because they were wandering around. So Kabir says, make foresight, a vision, your fire, so that you can see clearly. And with that, not only see clearly, but also burn the body of desires. Kaya kar tui. You have to control your desires and with compassion, scrape the ashes off. And be centered in the heart with love. Tiska paule rid antar. And focus your attention. Be centered all the time. Antar chhe jug tadi lave. Chau jug. All the time. That is true yoga, according to Kabir. He says, if you are so graced, kaho Kabir, je Kirpa Adhari, then you would know the true aim of life. De Sacha Nisana. And you would understand then that all these yogic powers that you are seeking are really contained within the knowledge of the all-pervasive self, Nam. Sab jogatan Ram Naam hai. Everything is contained in that self-knowledge. Jiska pind paran, whose life force, it is the life force of our body. So that is where one has to look within. One doesn't have to wander around. One doesn't have to subject the body to difficulties of all kinds in the hopes of perfecting it. That is not the way, according to Kabir. Knowledge is the way. Gyan. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.